Hi, my name is Alyssa from Raven Books. I thought I'd just take this opportunity to do an update on my writing project, on my novel, and I'd make the most of the fact that the builders aren't making all that noise next door, which is part of the reason why I haven't been doing many videos lately, because the hammering from the neighbours and the saw and all those sounds just are really too disruptive for making videos. We're coming into springtime in Auckland in New Zealand, and we've recently been through another lockdown, but so far so good. We seem to have been controlling and containing the spread of COVID. We might be moving down a level soon, but during this time I've been focusing mostly on my graphic design work, as that's my main source of income. I've really just been trying to ensure that I have a steady stream of work coming in that will get me through for the rest of the year. So I've really had to prioritize that work, and that's meant that I haven't had quite so much time to work on my book. However, I have actually done a fair bit over the past few weeks. I've done a lot of work on the first 3 chapters. It's about 22 pages. I think it's about 5,500 words, and really trying to drill that down to refine it, improve it and strengthen it. I'd spent a lot of time on that, but I felt like I had hardly anything to show for it. And I've been wondering whether I am just the slowest writer in the world. Just as a quick overview, if you're not aware of where I'm at with my project, I have written the entire story from start to finish. And the best way to put it is that I'm retelling the story. I'm changing the structure of the way the story is told, and instead of having a linear chronology, I've decided on 3 time periods that I will tell at the same time. Bitten by an ant. So each chapter will be set in a different time period, and yet I'm not necessarily switching through each time period or even giving them the same amount of story in each time frame. So I will probably spend a lot more time in the most current time frame, if that makes sense. So I have it structured in the 60s, 70s and 80s, with most of the action happening in the 80s, and he's an early teen, sort of tweenish in the first time period, and then late teens to adulthood in the middle time period, and then an adult in the 80s. I like this structure because it creates a little bit of mystery. You sort of know the result of something and not necessarily the exact event or what led up to that or what happened around that time, and so I can just start to reveal these events and storylines as I go. I think that's far more engaging, and that has actually solved the one biggest problem that I've had this whole time, which was generating interest from the beginning, and it just wasn't that interesting when it was in that linear format. So I've sent it through to my writing mentor. We had a big discussion about it today. She's given me feedback, but what was more important was just for me to discuss with her my intentions for where the story is going in terms of the character's emotional journey. So I'd written down an idea of how I wanted my character to evolve, as in what lessons he learns and his path to self-discovery. It's very rudimentary the way that I've written it, but I finally feel like I'm really getting somewhere with that. And what's interesting is that it's not actually any different to where I started out. It's just there's more clarity and something more solid to work with, and now I can make sure that everything that happens, every scene, every event, every interaction aligns with that intention, that purpose in the development of my protagonist. What we spent a lot of time talking about this morning with my mentor was the interactions with the characters, which As a new writer, I find dialogue really challenging. I don't enjoy writing dialogue, but I'm learning and I'm developing and strengthening. And I'm also starting to learn more about the nuances, the subtleties in those interactions in terms of exterior dialogue, interior or inner monologue, and body language. So what my mentor and I talked a lot about, and she gave me a lot of guidance on, was to explore the idea of the characters behaving in a way that is the complete opposite of what you would expect, or to take what I've already done in one particular scene and do the polar opposite, where everything that is said and done is actually the opposite. Within that, in that exercise, I can see what works. The way I understand that is when you're watching a film or a TV show or reading a book, etc. And when somebody does something unexpected, that's where the good stuff is. You want the story to be relatable and the characters to be relatable, but you don't want them to be predictable. And I have actually talked about that before. It's striking that right balance between relatable and without being predictable. And it also adds a layer of complexity to the characters. That's something that I really want to seek out, is this complexity that makes the characters so interesting and so vast and colourful and rich. So my exercise now is to take this one scene that is quite a critical scene because it's early on and it kind of sets up his home life. So we're establishing what normal is for him, for my main character. I feel like it's a really critical one to get right at this stage because it's very telling of the character himself and the world he lives in and what life is like for him and what that means for the storyline. Did I say what I was going to do with that scene? So what I'm going to do with that scene is flip it on its head and consider what it would be like if the characters behaved completely differently and that whole scene went in a different direction. And from there I can just see what sticks. Something I've been thinking about a lot anyway, not quite researching but just observing, when you have these rich characters, whether they are a protagonist or an antagonist, you know, a hero or a villain, if they're well developed, they're never just one or the other, and you need the light and the shade and the shade and the light. And it's something I've learned a lot through my yoga teaching, the yin and the yang, how the world in life is in balance. When you have a touch of dark in the light and light in the dark, it applies to everything when you're creating balance, homeostasis, and it's like putting that pinch of salt in a banana cake. Anyone who knows about colour theory, a good white paint has a dash of black. You know, one of the most popular paint colours here in New Zealand is for interiors is black white. The paint colour is called black white. And so part of my writing journey for a while now, especially in terms of developing characters, is to consider what darkness I can bring to my protagonist. Oh, honey. How do I create more richness and depth to his character and to my other characters, just with that touch of, I say darkness, it's not evil. I don't want him to have any evil in him. This darkness can come through in a thoughtless moment where he wasn't considering how others might feel about a situation, or, you know, mistakes, or just a moment of self-gratification. I need to explore this more. I was feeling a bit stuck for a while. It's a combination of many things. It was seasonal, winter here in New Zealand. It was the uncertainty and weirdness of COVID. It was lacking social interaction, just the disappointment of everything you were looking forward to being cancelled. You know, all these very small things that have all just kind of added up. And when I lost traction and I lost a bit of motivation to write, that's when the self-doubt creeps in. So I started to have those thoughts of, why am I even doing this? I'm completely unqualified to be writing a book, etc. I think that's a natural part of the process that probably everyone or every new writer goes through. And it was at that time that I made the little video about pushing through. I needed to give myself that pep talk and tell myself to just get through it. You know, just keep writing. It doesn't have to be good, just keep working on it, keep going and don't stop. Now I'm happy with what I've come up with. My writing mentor says that each sentence you write is a bridge to the next sentence, and that's a really good way of looking at it, where you're propelling yourself forward. You've got that impetus, that forward momentum that will carry you through. And we all know that you can go back and rework it, edit it, and refine and strengthen and improve, but you just got to keep going, because if you stop, there's going to be nothing to work with anyway. I guess that's where I'm at right now. I am happy. I might not sound like I'm very happy, but I am happy with my work. I think that I'm still a little bit daunted by how much work I still have to do, because every change I make kind of has a ripple effect, where if I change one small detail here, it affects the timeline. During the retelling process, there are some characters that haven't even been brought into it, so I need to decide whether these characters still belong in the story, who stays, who goes. But it's all part of the process. I'm just not going to be finished as soon as I would have liked to. I think we all have our eye on the prize and want to cross that finish line, but it seems to be moving further and further away, so I need to let go of that and actually just focus on doing the best that I can. So if you are a writer, or if you are working on your own creative project, if you're stuck, if you're flying through and breezing through, wherever you're at, I would love to hear from you. So please share your story below. I think we can all do with a bit of a pep talk to each other. This can be a lonely journey, so the more we can share our struggles and challenges and wins and lessons and encourage each other, that's how we get through. I'll try to do my updates more frequently from now on, so I'll be back with you soon. See ya.